One of the reasons you're being perceived as edutainment and not a driver of change is because, if we're honest with ourselves, in most cases, facilitators are only driving half the change process. Let me show you what I mean. In the work that we've been doing over the last 18 years at Actionable, we found that there are 4 core components to making change happen. The first thing we need, of course, is content. People need to know how to change. This is the gray matter stuff. Between the ears, it's your standard teach content. And honestly, it's the type of content that you can do via e-learning. Now I understand the steps to doing X. Change doesn't happen just because people know how. The second part is we need context. Context is where the information goes from I understand it to I care about this. And the goal is that we get it to a place where I care about it enough that I'm willing to break inertia and take action. So this is really the domain of facilitation. It's helping people understand content, to contextualize it so that they want to change. And it's usually not linear. We don't do all the content, then all the context. It's this back and forth relationship between content and context, content and context. And if you're a facilitator, which I assume you are, you know the incredible feeling that can come. I call it the facilitator high. When you are engaged in the flow of this with your participants, you can see them getting it and caring about it and lighting up and having this great intention. The intention is the equivalent of a New Year's Eve moment. It's that place at 11:30 on December 31st where it's like, this is the year. This is the year that I'm going to get in shape and be a better spouse and whatever people say on New Year's Eve. And then what happens? January 6th rolls around and people have forgotten most of what they committed to on the 31st. The problem with it is that intention does not drive change. Intention's a good starting point, but it's missing structure. Let's think about what I just said. Let's get in shape. Okay, well, what does that mean? You're already a shape. What shape do you want to become? And you don't become a shape, you do certain behaviors, you take certain actions that over time lead to changing that shape. This is the action phase of change. This is where we move from I understand it and I care enough about it to now I am doing something with it. And if you've ever tried something new, you know that the first time you try it, you're pretty terrible at it. This is true for all of us as human beings. So we don't need just action once, we need repeated, regular action. And we need action that is matched with insight, with reflection. Similar to the dance, the back and forth between content and context, we also need a dance between action and insight. I take action, I reflect, I learn from it, I iterate, I take another action. And we do this over and over and over and over again. These two pieces, the action and the insight part of the change curve, are typically no man's land in corporate learning programs. What do I mean by that? Everything up here in the content context, that's clearly your space. You're the facilitator, that's what you're doing. But then what happens? If you're not involved once people leave the room, then it's back on the buyer, and the buyer is not equipped or thinking about the fact that it's their responsibility to take action. And so it's a bit of a game of whose job is this? And so it falls back on the participants who are trying something new and struggling with the new and really trying to action this, but also deal with the competing priorities from real life. Someone needs to take ownership for this. And I would argue that as a facilitator, there's a golden opportunity for you to step into this role to say, I don't just deliver content and contextualize it for people. I drive holistic change. I support participants from that place of good intention and help them take action, not once, but repeatedly. I help them derive insight from their attempts at taking action. And through that process, I'm able to collect data, insight around what's working and what's not, and what behaviors are shifting and how that's likely to lead to the strategic priorities that drove the decision to invest in this program in the first place. See, the beautiful thing about this as a facilitator is that by stepping into this role of owning the holistic change process, you not only drive change, but you elevate your relationship with your client from a deliverer of great stuff in the room to a driver of measurable, demonstrable change that we can use, says your buyer, to inform the next round of strategic programming. You get out of the weeds from the program and into a place of strategic relevance. Now, each one of these topics has its own deep dive that we're covering over the course of subsequent videos here on this channel. So if you're enjoying this, if you want to go deeper, I encourage you to subscribe, like, comment if you'd like, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.